Guten Chodesh Adar. This class is a pre-recording, as due to my travel schedule, I will not be able to do our normal Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Parsha Shiur live and in person. We are here to discuss Parshas T'rumah, and it is Rosh Chodesh Adar, and the title for this class is The Real Communication Matrix. So we're going to talk about communication, what real communication is, and the fact that in order for communication to happen well, it's really a complex formula that I'm describing as a matrix. This month, the month of Adar, is sponsored by Dr. Leonard and Marilyn Horowitz, Le'alios Nishamos, so in the merit of the elevation of souls of his mother, Miriam Sarah Bas Aryeh Leib, Marilyn's father, Harav Tzvi Akiva ben Harav Moshe Chaim, and grandparents Shlomo ben Chaim Yisroel and Sarah bas Avraham Zalman HaKohen. May these parents and grandparents have tremendous benefit from their descendants and our collective Torah learning. Additionally, this month of Adar is also dedicated to Aliyas Neshamos, the special relatives of Dr. and Mrs. Horowitz, Moshe Aryeh ben Avraham Yosef, Hersh Mayer ben Moshe Aryeh, and Yitzchak Elchonon ben Chaim Yisroel. We wish that all these neshamos should have an elevation in the merit of their descendants and of our Torah learning. And a very special thank you to Dr. Leonard and wife Marilyn Horowitz for sponsoring and being such supporters of our Torah study, not only in sponsoring this particular month, but actually in their participation, and specifically Dr. Horowitz participates in many, many, many of our classes. We appreciate his thinking and his avid attentiveness and dedication to Torah learning in general. He has actually written a sefer on Tehillim, which is just beautiful, and Hashem should give him much health and energy to continue all of his tremendous Torah learning and dedication and teaching. Also, this week's class is dedicated for Refu'ah Shlema for Sarah Rivka bas Fryda, Perel Sasha bas Meril Rivka, Shlomo ben Baila, Malka Sarah bas Faiga Rachel, Simcha Isaac ben Etel Bluma, and Moshe ben Simcha. So towards the end of the class today, we will talk about Purim, and we will develop a specific point from the Megillah that is a tie-in to our shiur today, and also to the times in which we are living. 3 questions on Parshas T'rumah. Number 1, the way that the Torah begins is with Hashem telling Moshe to take a donation from the Jewish people and describing the materials that Hashem is asking to be donated: gold and silver and copper and blue wool and purple wool and crimson wool and linen and goat skins, goat hair plus ram skins that are dyed red, and other types of skins, and cedar wood and oil and spices. That's awesome. Hashem is asking for various specific, incredible materials, and that seems like the request. Then Hashem says, and they should make for me a mikdash, a sanctuary, and I will dwell in your midst. And that seems to be a very backwards order. Most people, when they do a fundraiser or a raising for a fund, they first describe the project. This is the building we want to build. This is the institution we want to build. This is the business venture that we hope to be able to get off the ground and make lots of money. Would you like to give us money or time or other things that you can help in order to assist with this project? It's strange that the way Hashem tells Moshe to go about this is to mention all the materials and then to mention, and they should make for me a sanctuary. Why is the Torah ordered that way? Question number 2 is related to the ark. And this is the first year that I noticed that when the Torah says to make the ark of specific dimensions, it says, and you should put, this is chapter 25, sentence 16, you should put into the ark, the aron, the edus, the testimony that I will give to you. And that refers to the tablets that I will give to you. And the question is that several commentaries, Rashi and the Sforno among them, learn that the whole discussion here of the tabernacle, the donations and all the materials and the construction of everything is written out of order in the Torah, because really the commandment for the Mishkan was not written until after the golden calf, which is in Parshas Kisisa, but the Torah put it here for whatever reason, whatever the explanation for that is. But it's out of order, which means, seemingly, if it is out of order, that all of these things that Hashem is telling Moshe to do is really done after the golden calf, seemingly after Moshe comes down from the mountain on Yom Kippur, which is 120 days from the giving of the Torah. And that means that the first tablets were already given to Moshe and smashed when Moshe saw them, that the Jewish people were doing the golden calf. Then Moshe goes up and davens for 40 days. Then he goes back up another 40 days. And eventually he comes down on Yom Kippur with the second set of tablets. And then Hashem tells Moshe to construct the Mishkan. But if that's true, that means when Hashem is telling Moshe to construct the Mishkan, the tabernacle, Hashem has already given the edus, the tablets. And if that's true, why does the verse here say, put into the ark the tablets that I will give you, if both tablets have already come and been given? The first one's broken, and the second one's already given to Moshe. What does it mean, put into the ark the tablets I will give you? That's question number 2. I think we'll ask a fourth question. Question number 3 is as follows. Over here, the Torah says 2 different times to put into the ark the edus that I will give you, the tablets that I will give you. Now, the problem is that it's repeated. So Rashi says, why is it repeated that you should put the tablets into the ark? So Rashi says a really fascinating but strange idea. Rashi says that the reason the Torah is going out of its way to tell you to put the tablets into the ark is in order to let you know that when you're constructing this ark, do not have the box, the ark, put on the cover called the kaporas, and then only after you put on the kaporas, the cover, put in the tablets. Instead, the Torah is going out of its way to repeat it so that you should know, do not put the cover on the ark and then put in the tablets. Put the tablets into the ark and then put on the cover. Now, that's astonishing, and I said it's strange because obviously, how are you going to put the tablets into the ark if you first put on the cover? What does that even mean? Why would you need a sentence to tell you, you know what, before you close the box, put the items that belong in the box, in this case the tablets, before you close it, before you put on the cover, which is made out of solid gold, not such a light piece of equipment, one would think also. Obviously, you have the box, you put in the tablets, and then you put on the ark. Why is it telling you don't put on the cover until you put in the tablets? Very strange, seemingly. That's question number 3. And question number 4 is in chapter 26, sentence 15, the Torah says, and you should make the beams for the Mishkan. You should make the beams for the Mishkan. Ve'asisas hakirashin la Mishkan. So Rashi asks the following question. What do you mean you should make the beams for the Mishkan? It should say you should make beams. And in general, that's what the Torah says. You should make a menorah. You should make an ark. Why does it say the beams? Says Rashi, because these beams were pre-existing the whole project of the Mishkan. And in fact, Yaakov Avinu knew that at some point Hashem was going to ask for a tabernacle. So when he went down to Mitzrayim, when Yaakov went down to Egypt, he planted cedar trees, which is what the beams are made out of. By the way, some of the ark is also made out of cedar, and other materials are also made out of cedar. Other instruments are also made out of cedar. And so Rashi says he planted cedar trees and he told the Jewish people, in the future, Hashem is going to ask you to build a sanctuary, a tabernacle. When you leave Egypt, take these cedar wood beams with you from these trees so that you'll be ready to construct when Hashem commands you. So that's why it says the beams. That's Rashi. Now, there's a lot of questions you can ask, but to me, the question is, how do the rabbis know that it was Yaakov Avinu that made this plan? Why is it that we assume that Yaakov is the one that told them about the beams? Maybe it was Yosef. Maybe a different person had prophecy. Miriam was a prophetess already. Maybe she had a prophecy. Maybe it was her foresight to bring out the beams. How do the Chachamim know that this concept of being prepared to build this sanctuary comes from Yaakov Avinu? So, I would like to begin explaining all these questions with the following, I think, very important concept that we need to understand. The centerpiece of the Mishkan is the ark that has the golden cherubs, which are part of the cover of the ark. And in the ark are the tablets, and ultimately, Sefer Torah was in the ark as well. That's the centerpiece. Now, in addition to it containing these incredible implements and parts of these implements and the tablets, is the fact that the Torah tells us in several places that Hashem would speak to Moshe between these cherubs. That's where prophecy would come to Moshe. The voice would come down from heaven, it would go through these cherubs, and then Hashem would speak to Moshe. But in addition to that, the rabbis tell us that all prophecy actually also emanated from between the Keruvim for all future generations. That's the centerpiece of the ark. And in fact, on Yom Kippur, this ark is a very big deal. That's when it's most used in service. That's when the Kohen goes in to the inner sanctuary, the Kodesh HaKodashim. So that is definitely the quintessential point of the tabernacle, and it's where all of our prayers are directed all the time. So why is that? So I just want to kind of elaborate on that concept for a minute. One of the major things that happens at Mount Sinai, after the Jewish people hear Hashem speaking the Ten Commandments themselves, they hear the voice of Hashem in incredible fashion with thunder and lightning. The people are scared and they say to Moshe, listen, Moshe, we can't handle hearing Hashem directly. You speak to Hashem instead of us. And Hashem says, good, that's what we're going to do. And Moshe is the one who conveys the prophecy that Moshe hears from Hashem to the Jewish people. And that is the way it works for the future as well. Now, let's ask ourselves a question. Hashem seems to be very okay with this idea. I think most of us would not love the concept of having an intermediary in our most important relationships. Seemingly, we should have a direct relationship with Hashem. Okay, so the people are saying they can't handle it. But just the fact that Hashem is willing to have this intimate, one-on-one communication, and we can't handle it, is quite the concession on the part of Hashem. Hashem is willing, even though seemingly what Hashem wants is to speak to the people directly. And originally the people wanted that as well. But Hashem says, fine. So I would like to suggest, and this is true on multiple levels, and we're not going to get into all of them today, that one major goal of the Mishkan is this ongoing intimate communication between Hashem and the Jewish people. And the way that that happens is through the construction of the ark and everything about the ark, and that's where the voice of Hashem emerges to Moshe prophetically, and Moshe then conveys it to the Jewish people. So that means that part of the mission of the tabernacle, of the Mishkan, is to accomplish as much of a close communication as possible between Hashem and the Jewish people. And the way that it's done is through this concept of the ark, the cherubs. That's where the voice comes to Moshe and then to the people. Why is that? What does it have to do with cherubs? And what about the tablets? And why is this how communication is meant to continue from the time of Mount Sinai and onward? And my suggestion is really kind of basic in terms of the concept of a relationship. And from there, we're going to hopefully answer our questions. In order for a relationship to truly achieve what it can maximally accomplish, the two people, the parties to the relationship, have to have the highest level of communication possible, because otherwise the sharing of ideas is not complete. And more than that, the sharing of self is not complete, because if I can't really express myself, if I can't fully express, if the other person, the other party cannot fully express at the highest level, so then for sure the relationship will not be everything it can be. So in order for a relationship to be everything that it can be, maximal level of communication is absolutely required. The Jewish people are saying it's not possible at this point, and Hashem is okay with that. But that means that we have to get to as much as is possible. Otherwise, we're really not doing justice to the concept of this relationship. It's not meaningful if people are not communicating on high level. So, what the Torah is telling us first is that when Hashem tells Moshe to speak to the people after the Torah finishes describing the whole Mount Sinai experience, both in Parshas Yisro and here at the end of Parshas Mishpatim, and now begins Parshas T'rumah, the Torah is telling us that what Hashem wants to know is, are the Jewish people with me? Are they wanting to invest in me and in our relationship? So therefore, of paramount importance is ask to take from them a donation, and this is what you should take, and it's a lot of things, it's incredible materials, very precious, and only if a person is enthusiastically giving it. Me'ez kol ish asher yidivenu libo. Because what Hashem wants is to know that there's buy-in, there's enthusiasm to accomplish as much as, in fact, indeed is possible. And that requires a tremendous willingness to invest, to give, and to donate to this relationship. Secondarily to that is the purpose. The purpose is to create a sanctuary, because of course the purpose is to get as close as possible. And guess what? Hashem is willing to get as close as possible, to dwell in the midst of the Jewish people. Make for me this designated space, and I will dwell among you. Hashem is asking us to invest in this relationship, and Hashem is saying, I am investing in this relationship. I am coming to you. That's step number one. That's why the Torah is organized in that way. Step number two, as per Rashi, and this is a beautiful approach mentioned by the Seforno, and we're going to suggest Rashi holds this way as well, and it's a beautiful understanding. It's true. The commandment for the tabernacle was after the golden calf. That's true. But Hashem taught these parshios of T'rumah and Tetzaveh to Moshe while Moshe was still on the mountain before Yom Kippur. That's what the Sforno says at the end of Parshas Mishpatim. That means that before Moshe came down the mountain, after the Jewish people said at Mount Sinai, we cannot talk to you directly, Hashem. After the Jewish people did the golden calf and the first tablets were smashed because they betrayed the relationship. And Moshe asked for forgiveness, and hopefully the people also repented, and Moshe's on the mountain. Before Moshe comes down, Hashem says to Moshe, I am so invested in these people that first of all, I'm going to live with them if they build this sanctuary. And I'm going to give them a second. The tablets I will give to them. The second tablets that I will give to you, you're going to put in the ark. And there's going to be a Yom Kippur where every day forgiveness can be achieved because I'm invested in them, despite the fact that they did not want one-on-one intimate communication, despite the fact that they did the golden calf. I'm invested in them to live with them, and every year there should be a Yom Kippur. And I'm going to give you the second set of tablets. That's why it says, I will give to you. And then, on top of that, the Torah tells us that there's no such thing as an ark and its cover without the Torah in there. That means never put the cover on top of the ark until the luchos, the edus is in there, which is a testimony to our relationship. You want to know why? Because the only way that the Jewish people will advance and grow and become who they should be is through the Torah that they learn, and they understand through the Torah who they are and who they can be. And the ideas that they learn to express to each other and to Hashem is through the filter of the Torah. That makes them into who they are, and then they can become their ultimate version of themselves, and they can have the ultimate close relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And so therefore, the Torah is saying, never put the cover on, because there's no such thing as a cover, a kapores, without a Torah, where the Keruvim look towards to get. The Keruvim represent the Jewish people. They get the understanding from the Torah. They communicate at the highest level with each other and with Hashem, because they're becoming the ultimate version of themselves. And that's how real communication happens. So the communication matrix is the Torah that is learned by the Jewish people, that is expressed by them in the words that they say to themselves, with each other, in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then the communication also happens from Hashem to them. That is a real communication matrix, and so important. Our best relationships will be achieved when we become who we're supposed to come through the Torah that we learn in the presence of Hashem, recognizing that what we're trying to build is the ultimate intimate relationship with one another and with Hashem, and that energizes the communication from Hashem, and it becomes a constant flow of divine inspiration, of divine wisdom, of Torah knowledge that we learn, that we expound, that we continue to grasp from Hashem, like we say, that Hashem constantly teaches Torah to the Jewish people, Hamalamed Torah la'amo Yisrael. That's the answer to the question, that the kapores, the ark, and the tablets are one utensil. It's not that you have an ark and the ark and the kapores are one entity, and then you put the Torah. No, it's not an ark without the Torah. It's not an ark without a kapores. It's not an ark if it's not the Jewish people, the Torah, and Hashem. Yisrael ve'oraisa v'kudusha b'richu chadhu. That's the answer to that question. And then the answer to the crushing question is very incredible. When Yaakov Avinu is running away from Esav, he says, if Hashem will be with me, I will make this a Beis Elokim. I will establish this place. Yaakov is on Mount Moriah. He just had the dream with the angels and the ladder up and down. And he says, he makes a vow. He says, if Hashem will be with me, I will make this a Beis Elokim, a house of Hashem, because Yaakov recognizes that the portal, the gate of heaven, is here in Mount Moriah. But in order for there to be this constant communication, we have to establish a place where HaKadosh Baruch Hu can reside. There needs to be a bias here. Says Yaakov, I'm going to make the vow, and Yaakov fulfills that vow by making sure that the Jewish people have the beams that are necessary to create the entire sanctuary of the Mishkan. He makes sure that those beams will be there, because that's his mission, to have a place where Hashem's presence is felt, that the communication can happen, and that ultimately is the foundation of the tabernacle. Now, what's very critical for us to understand is that we tend to not realize the tremendous investment that Hashem has in us. And here we are a couple of weeks before Purim. And the Megillah teaches us something incredible, that when it comes to the letters that Haman convinced Achashverosh to send, it was a terrible devastation, and it turned over the mood of the entire Jewish people, and we started mourning and crying, and that's when Mordechai went to Esther. Fine. And the people were terribly frightened, because there was a decree of annihilation, of complete genocide. And then later, when the second letters are sent, after Haman is hung, and they now send out a second set of letters, even before the letters reach all the countries, the people of Shushan, excuse me, just 1 second. Even before all the people are receiving the second set of letters, suddenly the city of Shushan is very happy. And then all the countries receive the second set of letters that the Jews have a right to fight for themselves. Even before they fight for themselves, what happens? Everybody's rejoicing. There's celebration throughout the Jewish world. It's incredible. Why is everybody happy? They haven't fought the war that's still going to happen on the 13th, because the first set of letters still say to kill the Jews. The second set of letters say the Jews can fight for themselves. So the Jews should be terrified. They have to fight a global war. But yet everybody's celebrating. I'd like to suggest the reason that everybody's celebrating is because when they saw the miracle of Mordechai being able to pull off the second set of letters, and that Esther, their sister, is the queen, and that the king is now behind the Jews, that they're able to fight for themselves, they realize how much Hashem is invested in them, and that all along Hashem was planning to help them to be saved. And if we realize how invested Hashem is in us, we have to ask ourselves, how invested are we in Hashem? And when we really invest, that's when the communication happens. So for all of us who wonder, how could October 7th happen? How could other horrors happen? When we really feel the investment that Hashem has, that even on Mount Sinai, Hashem was telling Moshe after the golden calf, there's going to be Yom Kippur, there's going to be a Mishkan, and I'm totally wanting to dwell with the people, and I will guide the people, and I will be with the people. We see that happening in our lifetime since October 7th. That's the miracle of Purim, and that's a tremendous cause for celebration, even though there's still anti-Semitism. And even though it's still true, we don't know what's going to happen with Iran. We don't know, and we don't know if we're safe. But you know what's undeniable is that Hashem is with us, and that he wants to communicate that he is with us, and he wants the highest level of relationship possible with us. He wants us to be redeemed more than we want the redemption. And that's a tremendous cause for celebration. And Be'ezras Hashem, with that joy, we can then really recommit to him, by Yehudim Haisa'ora, V'simcha V'sasan V'yikar, that for the Jews there should be light, which is Torah, and Mila, and Tefillin, and Yontif celebration. Really commit again what it means to be Jews, and that's when the third Beis HaMikdash can be rebuilt. Oh, sweet.